Hello everybody and happy Valentine's Day. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Brittnee. So I have been wanting to try out ruby chocolate for over a year now and I just haven't gotten around to it until now. Every year when February rolls around, we're surrounded by the color pink and chocolate, so what better time to use a pink chocolate than Valentine's Day? So yesterday I finally tempered some ruby chocolate and created a chocolate heart box, and I definitely learned a lot. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about what ruby chocolate is, and then I'll talk about tempering instructions and some of the things I learned from using it myself. If this is your first time even hearing about ruby chocolate, you might have absolutely no idea what it is, and you might be thinking, is it just like colored white chocolate? Well, it isn't. Ruby chocolate was released by the brand Calibut and is said to be the fourth type of chocolate alongside white, milk, and dark chocolate. What makes it different is the way that it is processed, which is done in a way that preserves the natural flavor and color of the cocoa bean. And Calibut has said that the particular beans that have the qualities they're looking for to create ruby are found in the Ivory Coast, Ecuador, and Brazil. When I first saw ruby chocolate, I thought it was the coolest thing. I love the idea of having more kinds of chocolate. Plus, I think that the color is so pretty. It's like a muted, medium pinkish purple color, which I would just call mauve, and I'm a big fan of. I mean, this chocolate was almost made to be a decoration in my apartment. And then the taste is really unique as well. It's a little bit fruity and to me tastes a little bit sour, and I think it pairs really well with strawberries and tastes really fresh. All right, now for tempering. To temper, you need to bring the temperature up to 45 degrees Celsius or 113 degrees Fahrenheit, and then bring it down to 27 degrees Celsius or 80.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and then bring it back up to 32 degrees Celsius or 189.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And to accomplish each of those temperatures, you can use table tempering or the seating method. And another way you can temper ruby chocolate is in the microwave. I opted for this option because it's recommended to be the best way for smaller amounts of chocolate. And I got these instructions from Calibut's video here on YouTube for how to temper ruby chocolate. So what I did was take the amount of chocolate that I needed and melt it in the microwave on power high for 30 seconds or less at a time. You'll want to lower the amount of time as you get further into the melting process. Now, once it was nearly all melted, I stirred it until it was smooth, and it was supposed to measure at about 42 degrees Celsius at that point. Then add in about 1/3 of the volume of your melted chocolate in fresh pieces and stir those until those are also melted, which will cool down your chocolate to its working temperature. And it's recommended to use a stick blender for this because it helps chop up your pieces and melt them quicker and smooth everything together. So the good news is that each time I attempted to temper my ruby chocolate, it somehow worked and it tempered every time. But I did definitely run into some problems. The first thing I noticed that when I was initially melting my chocolate in the microwave, it melted before it ever reached 42 degrees. And my thermometer could be off, but I was worried that if I didn't hit that temperature, then it wouldn't temper properly. So what I did was I just carefully kept warming it in the microwave even after it was melted until it hit 42, just in case, because I wanted to obey the instructions. Now looking back, I probably didn't have to do that because this microwave method is a different method than actually following the temperature chart, so I don't know, but it worked for me, so I'll have to experiment more. The next thing I noticed that even using the stick blender, the fresh pieces of ruby that I added in were not melting all the way. I think the first time the problem was simply because I added too many. Only add about 1/3 of the volume of what's already melted in the bowl. But even still, to ensure that my chocolate finished melting, I did two things. The first is that I chopped the bits of chocolate that I would be adding in later into smaller pieces with a knife. And the second thing is that if they still weren't fully melting as I was mixing it with the hand mixer, I would take a blow dryer and gently add heat into the bowl to just slowly finish melting those bits of chocolate that I added in. And while I used the blow dryer to add hot air, I was continuously measuring the temperature, and I kept the chocolate around 33 degrees. And now I don't know if I should have done those things or not, but it worked every time. And so this is kind of what's fun about chocolate, is that, there are definitely rules that you need to follow, but in some cases you can save things, and it worked for me. And experimenting, you will learn so many new things. So you have to just try it for yourself. So I found that if I did all of those things, my chocolate always passed the temper test. And to test the chocolate, you just dip a knife or spatula into the chocolate and set it out on your counter. And within 5 minutes, it should harden up with a satin finish. Now, another thing that gave me a little bit of trouble was the amount of time that you can really work with the chocolate. I've heard from multiple places that ruby chocolate is not great for holding at a consistent temperature because it tends to get thick and hard to work with. I definitely found that out myself by trying to use my first batch for too long, and it got extremely thick and unusable. So my tip for that is to temper fresh, smaller batches in the amounts that you'll use for each step of whatever you're making. I did find though that once the chocolate has cooled to its working temperature of 29.5 degrees, you've got a bit of time before it cools to work with it. And if you don't overwork it and make it thick, it actually is really smooth and easy to work with. All right, that was a lot of information. It's just so crazy how much I learned working with Ruby yesterday for the first time. And now I want to show you what I made. All right, guys, that's all I know about ruby chocolate so far. I hope that you enjoyed watching me make my first project using ruby. I'd love to hear if you guys have used ruby chocolate yet and what you've made with it and any tips that you may have. So be sure to leave a comment down below. If you liked this video and found it helpful or enjoyable, please let me know by giving it a like down below. It helps me out a lot. If you haven't subscribed yet, then today's the day. And if you'd like to see something else that's sweet, just click on one of these thumbnails. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.